Welcome back to Copper Star Precision. We're here with some videos about the Ruger Precision Rimfire rifle, and this will be a breakdown video. I already kind of gave you an intro video, some of my thoughts, showed you sort of the overall completed build. Now we're going to tear the rifle apart, and then we're going to build it back up how I did to try and squeeze every last bit of accuracy out of the platform. The platform itself is not, super inherently accurate. You could get lucky with your barrel, which is probably the biggest contributor to accuracy. You're kind of playing the barrel lottery. You can find that magical lot of rimfire ammo that does really well for you. But as far as value for your money, the $1,000 budget for this build, I think really, if you want to get started in this sport and you just want to see what it's all about, and you don't have friends who are willing to loan you their rifle or something like that, yes, you could go buy a CZ. You're probably going to spend a lot more money getting that competition ready. Whereas, like in the intro video I stated, this rifle has a lot going for it. Built-in 30 MO rail, easy ways to attach bipods or Arca rails or anything like that. It's an all-around great rifle. It's very configurable, so if you have younger shooters that want to get into the sport, it might be a nice, easy way without breaking the bank to sort of introduce them to, gun safety and, precision rifle sports. So I still think it's a great platform. Is it the best platform out there? Probably not. But can you still be competitive with it? Well, I released some match footage. I was able to take sixth place in a match. There was 30 people there, so, pretty good in my book. Obviously, I'm experienced in the sport, so if you're just getting started, I'm not saying that those results are typical. You still have to learn how to read the wind. You have to learn how to build positions, get stable. I have plenty of videos and strategies about that. But I think it's a great starting platform. If you want to buy a CZ, if you want to buy a Tikka T1X, by all means, go ahead. The idea is to empower people, get people into the sport without breaking the bank. And I think this is a great way to do that. So this first video is probably going to be boring for a lot of you, but we have to deal with the algorithm gods. So if you're not interested in this video, just open another window, put the volume very, very low, and let it run in the background just to get that watch time up. I know these stupid YouTube games, but it's just going to be a teardown video. So if you have this rifle, you need to know how to take anything apart. We're basically stripping it down all the way down so that we can then build it back up to the rifle that you saw in the intro video about this rifle. So again, not a video for everyone, but if you keep it running, it boosts watch time and it helps get this video to more people. You can also help this video by going down, liking this video, subscribing to this channel, and enabling notifications, because there's going to be some more fun stuff coming down the pipe. But I do want to provide this resource for anyone who has this rifle and is curious about how the different parts come apart, how to take it apart, and we're actually going to highlight some areas on this rifle that are kind of begging for improvement. There's some drastically flawed pieces of this rifle, but we will address all those in future videos. But again, in order to do that, we have to kind of take everything apart, and I'll go through and show you what those areas are and give you a roadmap of what to expect in future videos. So we're going to head to the bench and take this thing apart, and then in future videos, we'll build it back better. So on the bench, we have the Ruger Precision Rimfire. First things first, we're going to check, make sure, yes, the rifle is clear. Nothing in the chamber. We'll actually remove the bolt by depressing the bolt lever. What we're going to be doing is tearing this down, discussing some areas of improvement, and just trying to make this as accurate as possible. Do you have to do this to your rifle? Absolutely not. But if you like tinkering with stuff, there are some modifications we can make to hopefully improve accuracy. Speaking on the bolt real quick, it has two C-clips here. We can remove this C-clip that is closer to the bolt handle to simulate a longer length of pull of the bolt travel if you're trying to turn this into a trainer for one of your centerfire rifles. So that's an interesting point. Obviously, there's a lot of things we can do to the bolt. As you can see, there's a lot of wear on this one. We're going to address the issues why there is that wear. There's a lot of wear inside the actual action. You can see kind of where that silver strips are. That's where this bolt has been making contact with the inside of the action due to some sharp points we're going to take off. Just make the bolt that much more smooth. If you want, there are some aftermarket accessories. This is kind of a more swept pattern bolt knob with the Area 419 bolt handle. I prefer this. I use the Area 419 handle on all of my rimfire rifles, so I'm going to probably be replacing that out. But we're on a budget, so we're just going to talk about the easy stuff to do. So we'll set the bolt aside for now. And yeah, using a 3/16 bit, we can take off the grip. Just have to find, there's one screw,
in the bottom of the grip. It's a hex head bolt. There are quite a few threads. So we're simply going to take this off. This will take any AR pattern grip. So here's the stock grip and the stock bolt that goes with it. I do recommend changing this out for a more vertical grip. That will be included in our budget here. It's a little bit more personal preference, but I think, you know, for precision rifle work, we definitely want that vertical grip, maybe a thumb shelf, to help us not impart any torque as if you grab the grip like this, you have the tendency when you pull the trigger to torque the rifle, which we don't want. Other than that, to separate the upper, which includes the action, the barrel, and the handguard, from the lower, which is everything down here, we are going to have to remove, there are 2 action screws. They are keyed in 1/8 inch hex. There's a rear action screw and a front action screw. And with those 2 removed, I forgot to do one thing. There is actually a cover here that is just plastic that we can pick up on both sides and pull this up and out of the way. This will actually reveal a tool in here, a small Allen wrench that is used for trigger adjustments, but taking that off makes the separation easier. And now we have the separation. So long action screw in the back, short one in the front, which is pretty common. So we'll set all this aside. As far as sort of the lower, so to speak, goes, you'll see one aftermarket accessory from Anarchy Outdoors. It's this bag rider. I've covered this in a previous video. I think it's a really good quality of life improvement. It's just a 3D printed part. It's not too expensive, and it just gives you a little bit more purchase for bags. Another nice feature of this rifle, obviously, is the fully adjustable length of pull and cheek riser. That is sort of on a quick release system here, so very easy to make changes. We'll come back to this in a second. Here we have the barreled action. To remove the handguard, there are 2 clamp screws here, and I believe, yep, these are 9/64, so a little bit of an odd size. But we'll just take these off real quick. You shouldn't have to take these out all the way, just loosen them. Let's see if that did the trick. Yep. So now we have the barreled action and the handguard. The handguard itself will locate against this part of the Picatinny rail. So it will center itself on that. So that's how we get that back on. Then we have a standard barrel nut, which we will attempt to take off in a little bit. But yeah, just another close-up of, let's see if I can zoom you in here. See all those streaks in here? We're gonna address why that's the case, which is the bolt rubbing, and we're gonna polish the bolt and maybe even polish the inside of here to make this run even more smoothly. All right, let's talk about the trigger real quick. So to remove the trigger, it's not really held on by anything. There's this little J shape here, kind of. We're gonna take both sides of, there's a pin, and we're simply going to kind of push up and follow that pattern, and that's going to release tension on this spring that's inside here. And to get the rest of the trigger out, we're going to just push down from the top and then slide this metal piece rearwards. And then once we push this down, we can then push the trigger back. Now, I'll have a whole separate video about this trigger, but just looking at it, it's got a bunch of machine marks, and you know, its quality is not great. I'd obviously recommend going with an aftermarket trigger like the Timney, which is fit and finish is impeccable, and it's an amazing trigger. However, this costs just about half as much as the rifle does, so that's not going to fit within our budget. So we're going to have to make this trigger better. If you can tell, I absolutely hate this. I think it's called the AccuTrigger, this safety blade in here. This is not actually necessary for the rifle to function. There isn't actually an external safety, much like a AR fire control group, safe and fire. So we don't need this external safety. I think it gets in the way. Also, if you can tell, if I put the trigger like this, hopefully you're going to be able to see how much side-to-side play there is in the trigger. And even with the blade itself, if I hold the trigger still, there's a bunch of play side to side there. It just doesn't feel great. So we're actually going to put some shims in there and get that nice and tight, and pulling straight back every time. With that play, you're not going to have a consistent trigger feel depending on where the pad of your finger is touching this trigger. And I'm probably going to remove the safety blade, but that will be a whole nother video on its own on how to do that. So let's set that aside. As far as the top rail goes, it's a 30 MOA rail, which is great for our sport, and it looks like, let's see, is that a T10? Wow, these are really loose. Usually these are Loctited in. Is it a T10 or is it a T15? Nope, definitely T10. So let's take this off. The rear screw is extremely loose. That's concerning. So if you just got this rifle and you're not making any of these changes, I would still recommend checking. Make sure that these are torqued down. Wow, these are extremely loose. So obviously having your rail loose is going to potentially cause things like zero shift and things with your optics. Only the front one was really any level of tight, so that is quite surprising from the factory. That's just going to lift straight off. We have the 4 screws here, or bolts. Yeah, no Loctite in these at all. Quite a bit of gunk in there. We can wipe that off. So yeah, we're definitely going to be using the same rail, but then replacing these and Loctiting them down, making sure that this is not going to shift on us. It shouldn't shift, but we want to eliminate any possible chance of inaccuracy, right? So we will address that later. I'm going to have to take this out to a barrel vise to get this off. So let's put that aside for now, and we'll transition back to the lower. All right, back to the lower. A couple pieces in here. Inside here is your safety switch. It's kind of a pain in the butt if you want to remove this, and there's no reason to, but if it does fall out, I've seen good tips of, poking a hole on a pencil eraser to get this spring back in its position and then sliding in the safety. I can just push it out right now if I wanted to, but I don't want to lose that spring. So there's really no reason to take that apart. That's really not going to affect accuracy of the rifle. It's just the safety feature. You kind of see what I've started here, why this is shiny, is one possible way to make this rifle more accurate is to do what they call the aluminum tape bedding job. I'm going to have a whole video about that. But what we're really concerned right now with is this block, which we can just push up from the bottom. It comes out as one piece, and that means we're pretty much done with this lower section, so we can put that aside. This is sort of an action block. I don't know what they call it in the parts list, but this houses a few things. One, this is kind of like your ejector when you pull the bolt back and it claws a spent round. This will push the round outward and help eject the round. It's very loose in there. And then we have this plunger, which we push to depress to release the magazine. So this is our mag release. And as you can tell, if I just turn this on the side, this pin falls out. It's really not held in there by much of anything. And then we can push the plunger and remove this plastic mag release, which we can then replace. We can then pull up, straight up, to get that ejector out, and then pull this plunger with a spring out of the block here. Now this block is very roughly machined, and if we take a look at the action where this sits, right about here, it doesn't seem to make great contact with the actual action. So we're going to address that as well. There's a bunch of different burrs on here that we should clean up, and then again we'll try that aluminum tape bedding job. So I don't know if it's showing up on camera. If I can zoom in a little bit. But there are all kinds of burrs in here that we want to get rid of just so that this is making firm contact and smooth contact with the action. So we're going to deburr this, polish this, and then put an aluminum tape bedding job on it so that it makes full contact with the receiver. So that's pretty much the teardown. And then all we have to do is get the barrel off. And yeah, we're going to build this back with all kinds of improvements to hopefully improve accuracy.
So that wraps up the teardown of the Ruger Precision Rimfire rifle. And yeah, obviously there's a lot of work we can do, and we're going to try and do it on the cheap. So we've got a couple of little parts, you know, some elbow grease, some sandpaper. We're going to smooth out all that stuff, all those rough edges, and try and turn this into the most accurate platform that it can be. If you made it this far, I appreciate you sticking around. Don't forget to like this video, comment, and subscribe. Lots more content coming soon. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, as always, score more points.
Together we can fix this. Let's build back better.